Okay. Another good movie to watch, Inception. The thing about this movie is that it gives you some hints on how the hologram works as far as your consciousness goes, and that's where it pulls in the subconsciousness, Jim. Because the subconsciousness aspect of you is the one that fills in all the extra little characters in the background. The way your consciousness is focused is the reality you're going to have. And then another aspect to it is it shows you there's layers of experience. Like when they took that one guy down, they went down so many layers, and they warned the further you go down, the more you lose touch with the idea that it is something that you're getting into. In other words, you can lose track of who you are if you go too far down into the... Yeah, exactly. Like in towards the end, where the lead character, DiCaprio, finds the guy that had that experience when he thought he got shot in the reality. Yeah, he started dying, really. So they took him deeper to take him out of that reality. And when anyway, when he finds him, he's like, looks like he's like 100 years old, you know. So he had this long, from his perception, he had this long life, even though that whole thing that they did was only during the plane flight. So time, everything else is depicted on your consciousness in it. And the deeper you go into a hologram, the more you believe in the character and what's happening. So, that's that. I recommend you see Inception again. Contraction, aka limitation. So I'm just throwing this idea out here. You can believe whatever you want. But what if we purposely go into limitation in order to have an experience to grow, expand in consciousness? And as we go down, we give our power away each step we go. Okay? Each step we go, we have beliefs, judgments, and expectations, which are giving our power away. So as we go further into this reality and experience, which could be lifetimes, if you want to throw that in, then what happens is your infinite eye has become very finite and is very focused into one aspect of you. Okay? Does that make sense so far? So here's so what I want to go over is how we can change our lives. You don't have to believe the hologram perception, because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Because that's really coming to me more and more. Sorry. Certain things just don't matter anymore to me. Okay. So sorry. So it doesn't matter if you believe that we're in a hologram. You can still use what I'm going to teach you to get free. And you can do whatever you want, because really it doesn't matter. So, don't know which way is up or down? Going down, as we come into slavery, the first thing is we take on judgment, separation, fear, and discomfort. You could say that's one life, you could say that's multiple, because by the time you're 6, you got enough of that to think that you're an individual anyway, right? On the way up, you have to go through the discomfort, fear, separation, and judgment into freedom. Basically, you got to go out the way you came in. And what keeps us in the game is this realm here of our negative emotions and running from discomfort. But actually, this is my error in what I presented last time, and my butterfly thing that I want to rewrite, is we're all in a certain amount of discomfort, right? But, so in trying to avoid certain discomfort, we create discomfort, okay? But what it is the avoiding discomfort we deem is going to be worse. So we give ourselves over to slavery because it's a little uncomfortable, but it's not near what we're going to have to go through to become free. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we're fucking stuck in discomfort and bitching about it and judging it because this did this, did this, did this. That's our prison we've created. It's the game we're in, and it's given us lots of cool experiences. And to get out of it, you have to undo that shit. And that's exactly what we run the hell from. So it's perfect game. Perfect game. Because you get into it, and you can't get the fuck out. Until you realize a lot of the things you were judging just don't matter. They just don't matter in some ways. A lot of things don't matter. Okay. So, did that make sense? So, expansion, aka ascension, it's going the opposite direction. So you're coming from a fine pinpoint back out into expansion. So just the aspect of that is a cool game, because it's like, man, you get to come into contraction, feel, and get to feel and experience what it was to feel contracted, and go all the way out into complete unlimited expansion. That's a fun game just within itself. You might not agree, because you're stuck going down or on the process, but on the way up, it's fucking fun. So, expansion, aka ascension. And it's not like I'm going up all the time. I've even had some experiences while I was writing this. I started going down, because I started having like, I gotta do this fast, and I gotta do it quick, and then I was like, shut up. Actually, to the point that I dropped my computer and fried my screen. So I brought an experience based on my contraction I was going into, and I was feeling so expanded and expanded Sunday, and then I was like, okay, now I'm going to explain all this, and I started contracting myself with shoulds and shouldn'ts and all this other stuff, and then I had a limiting experience. But now I'm on the way back out, and it's not like you're just going to go, oh, I see the way out, and you're just going to fly out. I mean, you're going to do some looping. You're going to go up a little ways, come back, go up, come back. But once you really start on the way out seriously, and you're making some serious steps in it, even though it's a hologram, you still play the game. I mean, if a car is going to hit you, it's going to hit you, you need to jump out of the way. You still have to do certain things within it. So, the expansion, aka what some call ascension. This starts when we change the way we play the game, which has to do with facing discomfort, clearing our opinions, beliefs, and judgments. Until then, we are locked into certain rules, like in the movie Adjustment Bureau. However, in the end of the movie, well, you'll just have to see the movie. On the way up, we are to take back any power we gave away to the movie, to the game, to out there. The name of the game was coming into contraction as we gave everything away. And that's in the form of judgments, perceptions. Because anything you judge, a particular belief you have, you just gave that a certain amount of power. If you believe if you jump into the ocean when it's wintertime and it's too cold, you'll get sick, well, that has power over you. You judge people that have money, they have power over you. All these judgments that we created locked us into our reality to play this wonderful game. And to get out of it, you got to start taking all your power back from it. So again, the name of the game now, on the second half, so the first half of the game is get, how fucked up can I get? And this, on the way out is, how unfucked up can I get? Because somebody thought that'd be fun to play. Okay, going up. Going up, the first thing you got to start dealing with is your discomfort. And that's physical, emotional, and mental. This can be a little confusing. I'm going to go over this again because this is where I messed up before. We have discomfort when we are avoiding discomfort. However, in our minds, the discomfort we are avoiding seems worse. It's what we're avoiding that we have to go into, because that's what we've given our power away to. That's why we won't go the fuck near it, right? It's like, okay, this is comfortable pain. I'm a slave, but that scares the shit out of me, which means what? Where's your power in that? Not in you. Yeah. So it's like this little mirage you have to walk through to get your power. So we are willing to stay in the discomfort we are currently feeling. You go into the discomfort, you feel it, you address it, you find out. I'm going to have made up a sheet, which is not like, I'm always changing things, it'll change. And then we're going to look at the opinions, perceptions, beliefs, and expectations, which basically relate to have-tos. And underneath that we'll find judgments, which is how we fell from grace to begin with, and we move into non-judgment and ascension. So which way are you going? Going down, you follow fear. Where you follow old programming, opinions, perceptions, beliefs, judgments, and expectations, all programming creates have-tos, which an infinite being would reject. So we had to play the game a particular way that we would not reject it. We had to lose touch with our higher self to be here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Going up, you follow your excitement and bliss. In other words, you can tell when you are on the upswing because have-tos are far and few between. And if they show up, it tells you need to work on that because that's where you've given your power away. You only do what you feel in the moment and life flows. And right then, if you had a judgment about that, that tells you where you're stuck. Because if you don't follow your excitement and bliss, then you're not going to go up, because that's the name of the game. Because an expanded being follows where his bliss wants to, or his or her bliss wants to go, because there is no concept of I'm limited. The best way I can put it is, look at the discomfort in your life as signposts telling you where you are headed down, and have the needle stuck on the record, going round and round. And remove the beam, your perception, causing the cycle, and then relax into what comes. So in other words, if we're creating it anyway, right? If we're creating all the negativity coming to us, then what if we just stop creating the negativity? Life will begin to flow much more readily. And we already have had glimpses of this in the group when we tap on certain things. We're doing the same thing. I'm just putting a different label on it. And here's a big kicker. And this is the thing about things happening, there's no judgment about them. This is what's really coming to me, which is weird, because the judgment is, when you take away, there's no judgment on what you could ever do, then that's freedom right there. It's not like I'm there completely, but if you take judgment away completely, no matter what you do, there's no judgment by some higher being or your higher self. It's just an action that brought about experience. Because that means all of us coming into this life would never be able to be redeemed if all of our actions were taken as something horribly judged. None of us. It can all be erased, and that's even hinted at in the Bible. Here's something to really get. War is on the downside. The only way war will disappear from your experiences is when you're done with it. The only way something will disappear from any of your experiences is when you're done with it. You just have to be done with it, and that means the judgment of it too. Because you know what? Some people are coming into this reality still to experience limitation. So maybe war has to be part of it for them, but it doesn't have to be part of it for you, because there's multiple aspects to one reality. The only reason we experience bad feelings, war, etc. are because of our opinions, perceptions, beliefs, and judgment and expectations, locking us into certain behavior, which is what's going out, what we're beaming out, in the experiences, which is incoming from our outgoing. Everyone has free will. Just because you were done with war doesn't mean other people are. For me, this proves or shows the need for a multi-universe. So, this is even in biblical terms. And I was raised Baptist. I wasn't like super religious. And especially when I got into my teens, I say I prayed just in case, which really doesn't count anyway from that perspective. But somebody tell me what the purpose of the life experience is from a biblical standpoint.
Get back in the grace of God.
Do what?
To get back in the grace of God.
To get back in the grace of God. What else?
Make it to heaven.
Make it to heaven. What's the big... Salvation's one, but what's really going on? When we're here, what is the name of the game? All that's tied into what we do.
That's in religion. That's what
Sin, judgment.
Yeah, that's all the stuff we learn. So I'm going to say it, and y'all correct me, okay? Because I want to.
I think it's love.
Yeah, that's see, we've already changed our perceptions, but religion, correct me if I'm wrong, says there's one purpose for humanity. What's the purpose for humanity?
It's just save everybody on the planet.
No, it's not about saving everybody.
Give glory to God.
It's about God created us as God's play toys, right?
Fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, okay. It's a choice. It's a choice. There's the devil, there's God. Okay?
Duality.
That's one way to look at it, but just from a biblical standpoint, you're put in the middle of that. What is your job to do? To choose heaven or hell, right? Based on what you choose to do in reality, right? Okay. So taking that model, can this earth experience be blissful, completely peaceful?
No.
Just from that?
Just from this
No.
model?
Oh. No.
No, it can't.
There's no way, because you're already saying there's a devil, and if you're
Right.
saying a devil, then that everything that connotates around saying that there's a devil.
Right. All I'm getting at is that if this experience, from biblical term, is we are here to decide between right and wrong, then we have to have wrong here.
If you're here to decide, you're here to place judgment.
Right.
Yeah.
So some people come into this reality to experience that. But if you're done with it, it doesn't mean everybody else that's fucking here is done with it, though.
No.
That's a New Age concept of, oh, we got to save everybody. That's a judgment, meaning that person is doing it wrong. I'm here to save people. That's what's shifting for me. That is that is the major shift happening for me, because I don't see that game anymore. Some people are locked into that, and you'll see it everywhere. But you don't have to. But if you believe that, then you're locked into that. And peace, you can never have. You cannot have the personal peace experience if that is your belief system. Because right from that standpoint, from the biblical standpoint, there has to be the devil to be able to give you the choice to choose. And there can never be peace on earth because that's what this earth experience is about. Does that make sense? You see where I'm going with some of the judgments and limitations we bought into?
Yeah.
From that standpoint, there can never, ever, ever be peace on earth because that's the role of the human race and of the earth. Are you with me so far?
So would you say Christians, all Christians are satanic? Because they believe in the devil?
It's their fault the devil's
No.
believed in.
Well, we've all bought into the model of the game.
That's a judgment.
I'd say that's a judgment.
Yeah.
I think it's a judgment, and what you have to do is to say it doesn't matter.
It does.
They have to go to their life, and you're not yours. Whatever you
Yeah.
do.
In the end, for you, it doesn't matter what anybody else does or believes because that is their experience. So if they're coming into a hologram and they're wanting a certain experience, they may want to experience something so limiting and horrible that we would say, "Whoa, we want to prevent them from having that." But maybe that's not the game. Maybe me trying to prevent something from happening, unless my bliss and excitement leads me to do it,
Right.
is part of their own experience.
Haven't you?
And when you don't judge it, and we're going to get into the realms of how you get locked into those things, you don't have to play the game. Because what was locking me into a game that I was unaware of was my beliefs and perceptions of me having to do something within that model. If that model is not 100% true, then that frees me up. I don't have to play the game anybody else plays. And we're going to get into that part next here.
And if you interfere, it may do something with their attention. It may.
Right, yeah. And the thing about that is we go around doing that. But it all leads to anything because you cannot do anything bad here. That's what's coming to me. And that's what, I say that and I feel like a little percentage of me going, you're fucking crazy. But, I'm on the what way. So that's a judgment I got to deal with.
Well, if you take it from Cryon, and a lot of you have read Cryon, we sit on the other side and we say what we're going to do when we come here.
Mhm.
So who's to say that next time, when you look at good versus bad and when you get really, really deep into it,
Mhm.
who's not to say that if Katie's my best friend in this life and
Right.
if there's a next life, she'll choose and we'll decide that she's going to murder my sister
Yep.
or whatever because it's what we decided before we got here. So would that be wrong? No, it'd be
No,
what we agreed upon.
that's exactly
Or
what I'm
for
talking. That's what I'm talking about the holographic
Yeah, to learn to
holographic thing.
forgive.
But if that's what you decide, you can change your mind. You can change it.
Yeah.
Right.
This thing that
But I'm saying, what if something bad was for my greatest good?
Mhm.
There's no bad.
Right. Imagine a child coming in for a week because the child was ill. That would set forward some experiences for everybody. You would look at that as a bad experience, but you know what? If expansion of awareness comes from anything, it cannot be judged as bad. So if you leave a relationship that you've been stuck in because you've been thinking, I got to do the right thing, you doing there locks you into a certain experience. Maybe leaving is exactly the experience that soul wanted to be pushed to have an expansion of their own. So in other words, you begin to less and less to judge your actions and start going more for what brings you bliss. Here's another movies always talk to me. And I'm always getting clues. So here's Arnold with one of the worst faces ever. So it just so happens at this time in my life, there's a remake of the movie Total Recall. I haven't seen the new one yet, but I did see the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It actually starts tonight.
Oh, it does? Oh, tonight? Ah. So basically, the plot of the movie is about someone who doesn't know who they really are. And by having a virtual experience, which is what these guys are going to, a virtual experience, they begin to awaken to who he, or in this, I'm saying it this way, he begins to wake up to who he truly is, and choices will have to be made around that. There's not much of a better way to sum up the game model. Nines. This wasn't a hugely popular movie. I just found it by accident, quote unquote. And I recommend you see it because I really think the end of the movie is probably one of the most accurate ways of the end game, so to speak. So,
It's
I like.
interesting that movie didn't become super popular.
Yeah.
Maybe
Is it
the
on
consciousness
Netflix?
hasn't.
I think it is on Netflix.
It's ready for certain bits and pieces.
Yeah,
of the populace,
there's
but
certain
the mass
popu-
populace hasn't
Yeah,
There
all
you go.
the reviews I ever saw on it were like, this is crap. I don't, But I like this movie because it had number codes in it, number 9 after all.
Right.
It had multiple realities in it, and had simultaneous lives within this one plot. The end of the movie may actually be a fairly accurate explanation of what is really going on, at least from the lead character's point of view. And remember, the number 9 is the number of completion in numerology. So to me, that movie, if you watch it, you got to watch the whole thing, but the end scene is the main thing to watch and get. And if you're in the right state of mind, you're like, you should really start questioning things. My shifts. These are what's happened to me recently as a result of this perception change. And you don't take my shifts. You're going to have your own shifts. If everyone has chosen their own experiences, then I am not responsible for what they experience. It's not that I don't do anything or ignore people in need. There is just not an unhealthy aspect to it anymore, because I do what feels good to me, which leaves any negativity out of it. When you have to do something, negativity comes with it. But that's part of the game. If everyone has chosen their experiences, then one is not better and right from another. If in the end experience and expansion have taken place, there is no right and wrong. I'm not here to save the world. She is perfect as she is. And that's a New Age concept. That's another judgment that a lot of New Age people have bought into, which keeps you in the game. You get to play a different level of the game, but you're still trying to fix things. So here, and I've bought into that, so here I am playing the game at a different level, but I'm still playing a game that maybe I'm done with. But it'd be a fun game. I mean, you're welcome to stop anywhere you are, because there's no judgment in it. I already brought up the part about the Bible. Can there ever be complete peace? We talked about that. And the aspect of the Bible, having to be, if we're here to choose between right and wrong, you've got to have right and wrong in the same reality, or it doesn't work. So there can never be peace on earth, just from that model, which is crazy to me when people see that. That's that thing about bridge release, where we start not really seeing reality. We make up what we think it means. Maybe there's a realm out there for complete peace. But I don't think you're going to find it here, because the name of the game here is to have the negative experience to push you in a certain direction. My third shift. Things like karma and enlightenment belong on the down or the fear side. They don't exist on the upside. Karma can stand for a few things, which changes the whole picture of karma. For me, karma, and I spell it on purpose that way, is the sum of one's opinions, perceptions, beliefs, judgments, and expectations, which were created by so-called past experiences, that which drives one's life experiences. However, karma is not about past actions that one must make amends for or be forgiven for, because every experience leads to expansion of consciousness, which is the name of the game. In other words, it's our opinions, beliefs, and expectations that we might have picked up in a past life or past experience that we carry forward. It's not that we have to pay for the experience we had, because if everything is perfect, like Annette just mentioned, maybe I kill, Katie's daughter in another life, then on the other side, it's like, high five, man, that was like super fucking real.
That was great.
Yeah, exactly. It's like imagine going to see a movie, and why do you go to a movie? Seriously, why are we so much into movies and TV and all that? We like to feel and expand our awareness, right? So when we go to a movie, and you purposely went because you knew what the movie's about, at the end of the movie, you don't get pissed at the character for giving you experience. You're usually very thankful for that experience, right? Well, what if that's very similar to here? So, karma is all the opinions, perceptions, beliefs, judgments, and experiences we collected and beam out into the world. To end one's karma is to simply stop beaming the same bull hockey. That is it. No need to fall on one's sword. I'm not here to make amends for something I did in the past if it was perfect at the time. It's my perceptions and judgments I attach to maybe what I did in the past that locked me into having to pay for it. But that's all bullshit too, because it all led to experience. Say you go to see a movie, I already mentioned about this. During the movie you feel anger and sadness. Would you be angry at the actors for causing your discomfort? You would probably admire their performance. Well, it really isn't that different in the movie you call My Life. My other realization, no one has complete control over their karma in the true sense. in the true sense. If the karma is beaming bull hockey into the hologram. So in other words, people talk about clearing karma, but here you are trying to change some external or make it for some external thing you did, when really the only karma is inside of you. You can only change that from changing the inside. So starting the upswing, you have to look for what discomfort physically, mentally, and emotionally you are avoiding. What might your opinions, perceptions, beliefs, and beliefs relate to direct and bridge beliefs, and I'll go over that a little bit. And just pass. Give 2. Everybody take 2. And expectation, halves, 2s. Be on this. Again, I put this together pretty fast. In other words, you're looking for your opinions that might have caused your avoiding. What are possible judgments that would lead to these opinions, beliefs, perceptions, and expectations? At the end of this process, you express gratitude for the people, the players, the experiences in your life and the movie, and then you state a new awareness to operate from. So I'm going to give you an example of this process. And I'll read it from this piece of paper because it's easier to read. Let me jump down here real quick in case my recording kills. So layers of tapping. Imagine here you are inside the big IMAX theater, okay? What you beam out, you pull to you to experience. Does that make sense? Okay? What you're beaming out, you're pulling to you to experience. When we tap, so the layers of tapping, when we tap on emotional or physical issues, it's like we're beginning to interrupt that beam. And look, it's not coming to us as far, okay? It loosens its attachment by tapping on the emotions and the physical aspect. But it could still be coming up later because we haven't addressed the beliefs and perceptions, which all that is based on, the judgment. Does that make sense? Aha. This is my interpretation of aha. Let's say what you're beaming into, some experience here, the beam weakens, and then all of a sudden you get this new information beam, and you start pulling that to you. Why I'm talking about that, because usually when you tap, you kind of get these aha awarenesses happening. And to me, it's because we've kind of interfered with this flowing, but the thing that you want to be aware of is it's like reeling in a big fish. Don't let that aha go. Because if you stop beaming into that, if all your energy goes back into this will fade back into the movie theater. Does that make sense? Okay? It's like pulling things in and out. Here's where we cause a test. We're beaming 2 different ideas and concepts out, and they don't match, and we get 2 realities happening. It's like, I want to experience this, but I'm believing this at the same time. Well, you're going to get both of those until you decide on which one you're going to go with. Okay? Say you want to leave a relationship, but you're still got issues stuck in the relationship. You're going to be creating 2 possibilities. And that's what I think in biblical terms they call the test. Like God's testing. Well, God's not testing you. You're testing yourself based on what you're projecting out. So you'll get like, if you're beaming out, I want out of this relationship, you'll be pulling things to you that will offer that. But then you're like, your fears and stuff, you're beaming, I'm not afraid to get out of the relationship, so you're still going to be creating 2 things coming to you. Does that make sense?
So John,
Yeah.
it's not about forgiveness.
Hell no. Not at all. Forgiveness is a downside. Yep. Forgiveness is a downside thing. And actually, we're more free without the concept of forgiveness than with the concept of forgiveness.
There's nothing to forgive if there's no judgment.
Exactly. Like Nanette said, if I wanted to kill you in
There's
another...
nothing to forgive if there's no judgment.
Right.
Right. And the judgment, that's why, in a way, religion, we should be thankful for that to be able to play the game. Because the religion is what tied a lot of, or changed the level of the game. Because all those beliefs and fear of sin and fear of this, fear of that, have kept millions of people in the game. And you can keep playing as long as you want until you choose to get out of the theater. But you got to choose to get out of the theater to end the game. So I'm going to show you how this works so you can see the different levels of it. So, what is the issue? Current discomfort and discomfort you're avoiding. And you can follow along with this on the sheet here. Pam, why don't you go ahead and flip the big light on, or Jim? Closest, yeah, got it. So, and you can also see it up here, but it's harder to see up on the screen. I'm going to take you through one of these experiences. So, let's say the issue you're having is in relationship, okay? And I picked this one because I know the Matrix or the game most of us are playing in this room relate to this. So, the issue, and that's the thing about a game players that sing together, collect together. As does your enemies too.
This is our guild.
Yes. So the issue, let's say the issue, which is always your current issue, is relationship. Okay? Let's say the current discomfort is what you're feeling. So, it's a relationship. You're experiencing being irritated with all the things you have to do. Okay? The discomfort I am avoiding is standing up and expressing what I need in relationship, which might lead to the end of the relationship. You see how that happens? It keeps you from walking through and going up. So you stay in discomfort. If you're in discomfort, you're on the downside, period. I don't care if it's comfortable discomfort, you're going down. Okay? So you have to start addressing the discomfort you're avoiding. Just because you're going through discomfort doesn't mean you're going anywhere. We can tend to think, oh, I'm growing so much from this experience. Bullshit. It's comfortable. It's like a little blanket. It's like, I hate this, but at the same time, I'm scared to jump out of it. That's the fucking shit you got to jump out to be free, though. What opinions, perceptions, beliefs, direct or bridge beliefs, and expectation, have-tos do you have regarding this issue? So I put these in to help make sense of this. So this is what's leading to the discomfort, okay? You got to get. Good spiritual people sacrifice their needs for others. Equals, I have to take care of others. It is my duty to take care of others. I have to take care of others. My needs are not as important as others. Equals, I have to care more about others. I can't ask for help. Equals, I have to do it all myself. You see where I'm going with this? Okay? What are the possible judgments that would lead to these opinions, beliefs, perceptions, expectations you have around this issue? Good spiritual people only give. That is a judgment. And if you got that judgment, you're going to have the opinions, beliefs, and perceptions, and the discomfort related.
I have a question.
Yep.
Stopping right there.
Yep.
What if I completely resonated to everything,
Mm-hmm.
got down there and decided that it's not good spiritual people, it's not that I'm afraid of being condemned by God or spirit, but just self-induced guilt for harming somebody else?
Well, that guilt is the discomfort. So you got to look at the guilt as it may be, because there's in a certain issue, there may be more. It's not just one particular thing. I'm writing multiple things just for possible ideas. It could be something else. But guilt is the current discomfort, which is leading you to avoid other So in other words, you're feeling guilty because maybe you're not liking the relationship you're in. So you cannot escape that discomfort, right? And what you're really wanting to do is leave the relationship, but you're avoiding leaving the relationship. So the guilt has got you stuck. So the guilt's got to be tied to perceptions, beliefs, and expectations, which are going to go back to its own judgment. Does that make sense? Yes? No?
Yeah, sure.
No, if you don't agree, tell me.
I don't disagree. I'm trying to figure out
We can play with one.
where I can own
Okay.
this.
Okay.
if that
Then
makes
let
sense.
me play through this, and then we'll play with you. So, it doesn't mean it's personal. You can say it's all hypothetical. Good spiritual people only give. It is better to give than receive. That's like total spiritual programming right there, right? So, but that's a total judgment. People need to receive too, not just give. You can't keep pouring out of your cup and not getting anything in it. So once you realize this, once you clear it, not just once you see it, but once you clear it, you express gratitude for the people, players, and experiences in your life moving. For example, you don't have to say this it's by no means, but for example, thank you, Georgie, for playing for the part you played in this experience, which led me to uncover this, to experience limitation regarding having to care for other people, and also getting to experience my expansion out of that. So you'd state like your new awareness. Receiving is just as good as giving. And that's even a judgmental statement. It's hard to get that out of the system. But receiving, you could say receive, it's hard to say non-judgmental, but
Give and receive equally.
there you go. Thank you, Stephen. Look at that, smartass. It is not my duty. It is not my duty to take care of others, especially if I have to continually compromise or co-promise myself, unless I want to or I am so inclined led by my heart or spirit, to do with love and excitement in my heart instead of duty. I have to do it always equals resentment in the long run. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I have to, but I can't serve.
Huh?
I have to, but I can't serve.
Can't serve.
How you get cancer?
So on the back side of this, I gave you two because you could take one to play with. But for jollies, we're going to do we're going to play with Katie's hypothetical guilt thing. So hypothetically, Katie, what would be the issue?
We're going to go right back with guilt.
No, it's not the issue.
Okay.
The issue is the situation you're in. Does that make sense? The discomfort is the negative feelings. What is the issue related to? And you don't have to go like specific. You could just say relationship.
The judgment of guilt?
Nah, it'll be something like that.
Okay. The issue is being drained in a relationship.
Being drained. Okay, perfect. Being drained. And y'all don't have to use your sheet, but you can for another example, because that's why I gave you a blank one. Being drained in relationship. Okay, so what is your current discomfort in being drained in a relationship?
Being around somebody who can immediately knock me out of my happy place with their very negative, angry attitude.
Okay, so their attitude brings you down. We'll just make it simple like that. Okay, so what are you avoiding?
Confrontation.
Opening Pandora's box, yes.
So where does the guilt fill into this? Are you currently experiencing guilt?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that goes. So you can have multiple things in there. So guilt is going to go in that currently experiencing. Okay. So guilt you can never be able to escape unless you go into the discomfort you're avoiding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So you have guilt, and their attitude brings you down.
Right, and that guilt does not come from thinking that I would be judged by God.
Okay.
It's just...
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. All we're looking, because whether it's God or anybody else, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So guilt is still there's something underneath guilt, and we want to uncover it. So God doesn't matter in these things.
Okay.
Don't judge me, God, for saying that.
Yeah.
So what is the discomfort you're avoiding?
Potentially hurting a lot of people.
Okay, she's avoiding hurting people. She used a lot of people. Okay. What else? Is that it?
That would be the cold bottom line.
Okay. And that could be multiple too, because it'd be like, let's say it is in a relationship. It could be starting over. That's a discomfort you're avoiding too. Being by myself. There could be multiple. You start trying to see where I'm going with this. Those avoiding things are the bigger shit than the current discomfort. Because you know what? You're not going into the bigger ones because you're somewhat okay with where you are. You're okay with slavery to a certain degree. But good God, don't push you into this other shit you're avoiding. But that's where your freedom is. So you agree to be a slave. You see what I'm saying? And we're going to uncover what the beliefs, perceptions, opinions, judgments, and expectations are that are keeping the person being a slave. Does that make sense? And you don't even have to buy into the whole idea of this being a hologram or a game. This alone will free you up from reality. Okay? So this alone can stand by itself. Does that make sense? Okay? You don't have to buy into anything. Just the certain perceptions and go with that actually free your actions up. In other words, if everybody chose a certain action to experience from life, then if I go into a relationship and I went in there because of certain limitations and it fit perfectly, as it always does, with their limitations, when I'm done with that particular thing, it's time to move on. Sometimes the limitation keeps you staying in a very, very limited game where you can actually upgrade the game, so to speak. Maybe you don't just have this tiny little sword that is very unusable in the game. You get this nice flaming sword. You're still playing the game, but it's so much funner to play. So hurting people is her big thing, even though in this hypothetical experience there could be a lot more. But like starting on your own, all that bullshit that goes with that. So what might be some possible, and we'll play this in the game. And remember, you can look at the other one for examples, the one I didn't read. What opinions, perceptions, beliefs, and expectations might be causing the issue, causing the guilt, and causing the avoidance of hurting people?
I've seen the damage that can happen from somebody taking those actions.
Okay, she said, I've seen what happens when somebody takes those actions. Let's turn that into a perception, though. Opinion, okay? We're going to undo the little mirror funhouse in our mind, okay? Because we can't see the whole picture when we just see certain aspects of it. So you pull that out and go, well, this is a good reason. But you're still not telling me what that reason's based on. So give me, okay, so what you said is you've seen, say that again?
I've seen the damage that can happen when somebody...
I've seen the...
When somebody just lives for themselves,
now we're getting
I've
what?
seen the ugliness and the hatefulness and all the shit, negative stuff that comes from somebody who lives for themselves.
Now let me change your thing, because this is where we jump the truth. You said, I've seen, was it selfish people you said? I'm trying to follow these multi-layered
people who live for themselves.
Okay, people who live for themselves cause blah blah blah. You jumped over the belief though. People that live for themselves, what? What's the belief there?
Are selfish.
Okay.
Are ugly. Are hateful.
Selfish. So selfishness is ugly, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. So is that a judgment? Selfishness is ugly. So that goes almost back to the page before, which is kind of how I set it up in a way. That means that I have to give, but I can't receive, which is really strange, because here's the mind trick in that house is, how do you receive good? If give, no, let me finish. When give is what you're supposed to do, because that's what any unselfish good person does, how can you get if you're so busy giving? Where does the door open to receive it back? You see what I'm saying? And what happens is our mind gets stuck on the judgment, and we see that, but we don't see that we're actually limiting what we're getting back, which is actually causing a sin, in a way, because you're denying that.
I've dissected this enough over the last couple of weeks that I can probably answer that. I am not good at receiving. I recognize that.
Yeah, but that's all good.
That comes from viewing the situation as, if I've always been able to handle this, why hurt everybody else by being weak and changing direction?
Why are you assuming that you're weak?
Right. So if you ask for something, so people that need things are weak.
You're judging yourself.
That was a judgment there.
Do what? Oh. So selfishness is ugly. People that need things are weak. So right there, I mean, there's more there, but that alone, I guarantee you, is going to lead to, because you know the main thing she says, their attitudes, other people's attitudes being negative, bringing you down. If you didn't have this whole thing about being selfish and doing what you need to do for you, that wouldn't affect you. That's the thing about the game. Once you're done with war, it fucking doesn't exist for you anymore. That person would not be in your life, or the person would change. You're not done with this because you've got a belief and a judgment. That's the name of the game. You're here to clear all that shit. If you believe selfishness is ugly, then you're going to keep having the negative experience of other people bringing you down. Does that make sense? And the guilt associated with it. That's how we get stuck in the game.
That was like my biggest hurdle. I spent 30 years in an abusive marriage, verbally and physically, but yet because of my religious programming and because of what it was going to do to my kids versus my grandkids and yada yada yada, and the Pope and my grandma who's dead in the grave and Aunt Johnny and Uncle whatchamacallit, and now I look back on it, and 6 years ago, and it's the best decision I ever made. I finally broke free of that constant verbal negativity that was swept over me every day. And you can only build yourself up so much. You start your day, you've only got so much energy, then you get up to here, and then just I mean, I don't think even a Buddha could stay in a room with 10 people constantly just saying negative words over them and putting him down.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe a Buddha could, but
well, the
you know
Buddha
what I
could
mean.
because there's no
Yeah.
non-judgment. So in
Right.
other words, this is where we get into discomfort. Is because one, we've allowed ourselves to be in that environment. So a Buddha would either get up and move, or he would be okay in the environment, or she would be okay in the environment. You're stuck in an environment because you have judgments that are basically magnetizing you into that experience. If you had no judgment on it, that person would not bother you. It only affects you because of the judgments attached to it. That's the name of the game. You take the judgments out of here completely, you are free to move within it. Why you're in pain is because you feel like you're stuck. And the only reason you're stuck is because of the false bullshit, the judgments, beliefs, and perceptions you bought into coming into the game. Does that make sense? All your power you put out there. But actually you have all the power in the world to change everything, to change the game. Does that make sense?
You gotta quit caring about what other people think.
What
Isn't
you
it about
yourself
going back
think?
to
That was hard
What
for
you
me.
yourself think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah.
I spent a whole year in self-judgment. I was probably at the darkest point of my life.
You know, I've been asking questions about the same thing, and the thing that's been coming to me is when I become aware that I have a judgment on somebody or what's happening, I ask myself, what do you want? Why are you thinking about that? Why don't you think about what you want and use your mind to say, what do I want?
That's where the guilt comes in. Because the what do I want doesn't mesh with what the rest of them would want. And it's only me that shifted gears. It's nothing, because in all honesty, if I could remove the judgment, I wouldn't be able to sit here and tell you that he was negative and that he's draining and that he's angry and that he's reactive. And I wouldn't tell you that it would affect the rest of them because I wouldn't have a judgment on it. So at the end of the day, I would probably have to sit here and say, if I remove the fucking judgment, then the God's honest, deep, ugly truth would be, maybe I just don't feel the same anymore. And maybe it's not complicated than that. And maybe that doesn't give me the right to break up everybody else's little world.
You're assuming that everyone else in that same world
Yeah,
that they're happy.
and that's another judgment that locks you into that. You know, when my mom and dad got a divorce, I was fucking happy. I mean, I hear about all these stories about, it's like fucking A, get away from that person. I forget I was recording. So, nobody will listen to it. Those are all things that, the name of the game, it keeps you locked into it. And yeah, maybe you are done, and basically you're down in the bottom of this.
There's something you said, though, that we all came for our own experiences.
Mhm.
So why are you feeling responsible for their experience?
If things get ugly for the moment, but I'm so good at shutting down, walking away. I have prayer, I have everything else to put my energy, my focus. I can physically remove myself from confrontation, which I've gotten very, very good at doing.
Mhm.
So there is no ugly and bullshit that is affecting all of them. I mean,
So
I
your
get the
game
looks.
is so perfected.
I get rid. Yes, I get the
Your
looks
game is
from
so
my kids.
perfected.
Yes.
I would disagree with that. From your perception, they are not being affected. But
You feel that
but
you're
the
filtering them
Yes.
but
from
I
that.
but I know from
Because I grew up with the household that was always motherfucking.
But they didn't grow up there.
No, they didn't, and I don't want that for them.
and the thing about that though is here's the thing is if you stay in that and if you say I'm just going to play this out. Let's say you stay there, right? And you're saying you don't want to create that. Well, you create that by default because the negativity that is unsaid is just as bad as the negativity said.
It's just as big.
Because you know what? Children pick up on that more than it was said.
That's exactly what
So you're actually
Exactly.
doing what you don't want to
You're
do.
still creating the energy
Right.
anyway.
Well, I'm just now, I think this, coming to terms with that. Because I think, or I thought, that the more calm I kept myself, the more I simply disassociated and diverted my energy, that the more I should be attracting that. I look at him, or I think about him on the way home, and I'm going, I viewed he was peaceful, I viewed he was calm, and I walked in the door the other night after group, and I swear to God, it wasn't 5 fucking minutes. not even. He wears it right here. And I realize that no matter how much I'm fighting that battle, deliberately trying to say it's peaceful, it's calm, it's loving, that I seem to be bringing more and more of it to me, no matter what I'm trying to do. And that's where I realize I'm beating my head against a wall somewhere.
And
that when I think I'm doing the right thing, obviously I'm not.
Well, the judgments and perceptions will not go away just because we affirm things. That's my whole thing about affirmations not working. And the thing about that, you said you're distracting yourself. Well, that's what we all do. We all try to distract ourselves from discomfort. We have a little bit, but we try to distract ourselves a little bit. But let me ask you this. Do you experience discomfort on a daily basis?
Yes.
Yes. So you're basically living discomfort. If it's a daily basis thing, you're living discomfort. You may pretend that you're out of that, but you're in it. You're living discomfort. So what it is, and this is another trick the mind plays, is fear. So what it is you have a belief, or let's say a judgment. Let's make it a judgment. Selfish people are ugly. You do not want to be ugly like your mom because that hurt you. So you're going to do your damnedest to not be like that. But what you do is you wind up hurting yourself with that belief system. Because you know what? People need to receive just as much as they need to give. And if you don't set that boundary up based on an old program or an old belief system or a judgment, then basically you perpetuate that forever. So ultimately what happens is once you free yourself of the judgment, then that will go away. You can't pretend the judgment's not there with an affirmation. Because the judgment is what's drawing that to you. The judgment is making that experience of selfish people being ugly. So basically when you go into the experience, you start feeling like, good God, I hate this. I want to, parts of you start thinking about getting out. Well, you get to live your judgment all the time because you're judging yourself. That's the guilt that you're feeling. Like you said, that's your current feeling. The guilt, you haven't even left and you're feeling guilty. Fuck, it's like, having to pay for sin that you didn't do. So you're already experiencing most of the shit that you would actually get away from if you went into what you're avoiding, which may not end exactly how we think it is anyway, because that's a perception of judgment anyway.
But you don't think your kids see all the avoidance? I think they do.
My daughter does. My
Yes.
son wouldn't for any because he wants the happy bubble. My daughter tells me all the time.
But then he's doing what you do.
He's doing
Exactly.
He is like me. She's more like her father.
Everything's good.
Yes.
Everything's perfect. Everything's good.
Yes.
It's like Betty Crocker.
I had
They all
I had
play
that
your
discussion with a
roles and
client.
perpetuate what it is.
Exactly.
Until somebody gets out of it.
Well, I keep thinking that the kids are going to, they're 21 and 23. They're
And
going
then it'll be,
right, and
They're
then we'll
gonna-
go with one of them, and then he would be okay. And now this year she's gone, and I locked myself into saying this year was not about me. This year was just about her safety and that child being as happy as he could without his mommy for a year.
And think about this. This is the perfect experience for you to recreate, because you're creating it out of the hologram. The perfect experience for you to create for someone that thinks selfishness is ugly is, this year is not about me. Wow. This is going to be one of the hardest years for you because it's coming from the judgment. It's going to be the most uncomfortable fucking year because it's coming exactly from the judgment to create that. You see what I'm saying? So you saying, oh, it's not about me, is based in that judgment that if it's about you, it's bad. So you've set up a perfect thing that if this does not shift in this time period, I would be amazed because you lit the dynamite. You lit the dynamite.
You can't take care of him, her, and you at the same time, and everybody gives and receives. You have to.
I'm not
No,
sure I'm following.
she's saying that I'm going to give everything and I'm not going to receive anything
Yeah.
this year.
But at the end of the day, I've always told myself that I receive the peace from holding it all together no matter what.
Do you have
Are
discomfort
you
every
having
day?
peace?
I feel good about things at the end of the day. I'm not talking about myself, but I feel good about making it through another day.
And that's good. I mean, that's what that's the concept you had to create to make the discomfort livable. All you've done is you've made it. A lot of
Survive
people.
the game for the day.
Yeah.
Okay,
It is a lie. It's a lie, and you turn the discomfort into a game in itself. Where if I make it I feel at least somewhat good
There's
about
one day
myself.
down.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
now
It's just like I told a client of mine, she was talking about she's been in a marriage for 10 plus years, and she's done with it. But she's staying in it because she's got 2 young children. She's got like a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old. And she doesn't want to hurt the kids. And I said, okay, but if you stay in the relationship and you are constantly in negative mode, even though you're not fighting actively in front of the kids, you're still hurting the kids.
Yeah.
By default, you're hurting the kids because they feel it. And she goes, well, yeah, my youngest son had night terrors for 3 months. I'm like, does this not slap you in the face? You create that by default because you're actively not dealing with the situation.
But that's
Don't you
but
think
that
about what you're teaching them too. You're teaching your kids. You stay in a
It's okay to
relationship
stay in
even
that
though you're
relationship.
miserable. You stay and you
Yeah,
stay
my
and you
parents
avoid
did.
and
I
you put
am
up and you
miserable.
do this.
see, but
This
the
is what
thing,
you're teaching your kids.
But the
That's
thing
why
that
I'm
goes-
21 and 23, but neither one of my kids are in a relationship.
And you can't make yourself
Because they're
happy.
afraid they're gonna have what you have.
well, and it doesn't matter what you tell yourself mentally,
Right.
because everything else is running the thing. So, we do these little things with our mind games, but it doesn't mean anything has changed. You just make yourself okay with it. Damn, I forgot where I was going to go with that. No, it's all right.
We would have our mirrors for each other.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have our mirrors for each other.
Yeah. There's a lot of mirrors in this group around that issue right now. It's a huge mirror right now. In that.
When I got to the point where every day I felt like I would wake up and go, oh man, I didn't die last night. That's when I knew I had to
Oh, I remember what I remember what I was going to say. When I said, like you said, this is going to be this year is not going to be about me, but yet that whatever said that, whatever part of you is based in selfishness is ugly. What it is you've brought yourself the perfect gift to break it, because this is what happens. You can only go so far down, and once it gets so uncomfortable, something breaks, and you have to go the other way. Unless you're really a stubborn ass, and then you choose to just have some horrible physical ailment take you all the way out of the game in a negative way. So, but usually there's something super negative that pushes us to the point where we can no longer stand the current discomfort because it's growing and growing. We have to face the one we're avoiding. And this will be a perfect year for that, because now you've got to take the place of your daughter completely, which fits in perfectly with the judgment that, being selfish is negative, because now you get to be less selfish. But it's going to push that issue because that part of you is not real.
I've
That
already
is
rationalized that.
Huh?
I've already rationalized how to get through this next year.
Well, of course, we do that ahead of time. It doesn't mean it's going to be...
Dis-ease. You're in
I'm not,
dis-ease.
I talked to myself about that. I cannot get sick this year. There's no way that I can get sick. I couldn't have a minute of not being able to function. It just wouldn't happen.
So there you go.
There you go.
I've got an answer for all but hell.
I've had